The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc.
Welcome to the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we discuss the latest news and info that Feds need to know in 15 minutes-ish. Sometimes they get long-winded or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15, we got you covered. So grab your coffee, your energy drink, your green juice, whatever gets you rolling. And we'll tell you what you need to know might have missed. We're your host. I am Dan Sipe, and I am joined by the irrepressible Katelyn Murray.
Ooh, I love that. Irrepressible. It's probably pretty accurate.
That's been my experience.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Pleasure to join you today, Dan. I'm telling you, I got my winter sweater on today.
I'm tired of winter already.
It's getting old. It's really cold. We haven't gotten any snow. They're getting bombarded in Florida and Louisiana, though, which is fun.
Yeah, 9 inches. Okay, we know what every holiday card for the French Quarter is going to be for the next decade.
Oh, yeah.
The one time there was a snow cover.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would be out there as a Cajun Santa. I would absolutely be doing that. Well, you know, Katelyn, there is the Cajun night before Christmas.
Have
you ever encountered it?
No.
By Trosclair. Yep. Absolutely. And Santa is brought through the bayou on a skiff pulled by alligator.
And you know that tracks.
Yeah, to the top of the porch, top of the wall, crawl alligator, make sure you don't fall. Oh, yes. It is a classic in the Sipe house from the moment we found it.
Oh, my God. I need to engage with this. I love that. That's
it was written as kind of a joke in one of the newspapers down there. And it's become a classic. You know, I always hoped that I would get to hear like Justin Wilson, you know, reading it. So, yeah. And up on the rooftop, it sound like the hail when them big alligators done sought down their tails.
I feel like we need to do an audio book of that for you. So go ahead and pencil that into our projects folder. You know, next Christmas, maybe we can treat the Serving Those Who Serve gang with that.
Cajun night before Christmas. I guarantee. Well, as much as I would love to do bad Cajun accents all day long, I'm guessing that our feds are here to find out what's going on that matters to them. So, Katelyn, what do we got?
We've got some interesting topics that we're going to be talking about this episode. I am going to have a chat with you guys about TSP loans and kind of some things that you need to know there. And then Dan is going to cover some benefits that every caregiver should know about, highlighting some really important pieces of information there. Again, you know, this is stuff that even if you don't need it now, you may need it in the future. So it's good to know a thing or two about it. And you know that Serving Those Who Serve is always going to be here with the resources that you need to bone up on it if you do, God forbid, have a situation where you really need to look into it. So TSP loan options. You can take a loan from your TSP. Dan, did you know that?
I did know that. We encourage people to be judicious about it, and I'm sure you're going to get to that part.
Oh, for sure. So you can take a loan from the TSP. They do allow loans for general purpose, or there's kind of two main parts. So there's general purpose loans and there's residential loans. So a general purpose loan can be taken for any reason, requires no documentation. You pay a one-time fee of $50, and then you have a repayment period of 12 to 60 months on that loan, okay? The other type of loan that you can take is a residential loan. Now, residential loans can be used for buying or building a primary residence, important, by funding transactions like down payments. If you need money for your down payment, you do have to have documentation with a residential loan. The one-time fee in this case is $100, not $50, but you do get that longer repayment period of 61 to 180 months. Okay. Now, a couple things about loan eligibility. In order to be eligible for a TSP loan, you must be a federal employee or an armed forces member in active pay status. Okay. So this TSP loan is not for retirees.
Gotcha.
Active pay status with at least $1,000 in TSP contributions and earnings. Limitations, you can have a maximum of 2 TSP loans at a time. They can either be 2 general purpose loans or 1 general purpose and 1 residential. You cannot have 2 residential loans at the same time. And then another condition that they've got here is you can't have repaid a TSP loan in the last 30 days. In order to take a new one out. So you got to wait at least a little over a month. And repayments on those TSP loans are made through payroll deductions. That's why you got to be in active pay status, because you're making the repayment through payroll deductions. Now, the minimum amount that you can take out in order to do a TSP loan is $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the ceiling on this is 50% of your total account balance, excluding any other outstanding loans you have, or $10,000, whichever one's greater. There is a cap on it of a flat $50,000, and your total. So basically, you're looking at your total account balance minus any outstanding loans that you have. Okay, so that's kind of what it is, right? Let's talk pros and cons now on this. A pro that you've got is the interest rates on these loans are relatively low interest. The interest rate that you're getting on that loan is based on the Government Securities Index Fund, otherwise known as the G Fund, which is typically going to be lower than other loan options that you may have if you take out a private loan, a private general purpose loan from a bank.
Gotcha.
There is no credit check required because your own money is the collateral. So there's no credit really involved because your money is what's collateralizing the loan. And then the interest that you are paying, and this is a cool part actually, the interest that you're paying on that loan go back into your traditional or Roth TSP account. Okay? So that is a significant pro. Now, there's some cons. Okay? So when you are taking out a loan from your TSP, it's going to reduce your invested account balance, which could slow your compound interest growth and result in less savings for retirement long term. That is a significant thing. You do have the potential for double taxation because repayments are made with after-tax dollars. And if you borrowed money from a traditional TSP, from the traditional portion of your TSP, you're going to get taxed on those funds when you withdraw them in retirement. So that is also a flag.
Gotcha.
And then there's also, of course, separation issues to worry about. Particularly, this is probably less of an issue with those general purpose loans that have a maximum period of 60 months. That's going to be about 5 years. But if you're doing one of the real estate or residential loans, the longest period on that is 180 months. There could be separation issues. If you're leaving with an outstanding TSP loan, you have to either repay it or set up a repayment plan. Otherwise, that loan is considered in default and is taxable.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
That is a big deal there. Okay. So what is our take on it, right? So we talked about what it is. We talked about pros and cons from an unbiased standpoint. And now we'll kind of get into the little financial planery side of it. When you are looking at the potential of doing a TSP loan, consider your alternatives. You can borrow against your TSP, but make sure that you consider all of the options that are on the table. Check out your emergency fund. Okay. If you're buying a home, it's probably advisable to spend at least a couple of years saving up some cash for a down payment in excess of your emergency cash reserve. Home equity lines of credit. If you're looking at a general purpose loan, look at a home equity line of credit. It's possible that, especially if you're using those funds for some sort of improvement on your primary residence, it's possible that you could get a little bit of a mortgage interest deduction. And then, obviously, if it's tough times, you may want to look at some other hardship assistance programs there as well. In general, I will say, and Dan kind of teased this a little bit earlier. In general, we advise people to be judicious about taking loans from their TSP.
Yep.
Because you want to be building up, not putting money in the pot and then sort of taking money back out of the pot. Okay. But it is an important benefit that we want to make sure that is available to you. Before you take out a TSP loan, please, please, please talk to your financial advisor to understand how that factors in to the rest of your overall financial planning picture. If you don't have one, feel free to reach out to the team at Serving Those Who Serve, and we will help. We'll do our best to help identify the best financial option for your unique situation. Okay. You can do that by emailing meetings@stwserve.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
We are here for you folks.
And that is my spiel on TSP loans. Dan, you've got a really interesting piece on some maybe lesser known benefits that particularly relate to caregivers.
Yeah. As people I know who follow, we have a disabled person in our house who is the child of a career Fed. So caregiving is something that is very close and very real for us. Katelyn, did you know that the projection is that 70% of Americans over 65 will need some assistance with their life? And it is projected that almost a third of federal employees will be caring for an adult, so almost 1 in 3. It's important to understand there are some workplace flexibilities and resources that are out there. You need to know about them before you can benefit from. First up, under leave policies, there's the Family Medical Leave Act that allows for up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave per year for caregiving and still protecting the job and benefits. Ensure your eligibility and get your documentation right. You go through your HR department for that. Sick leave for family care. You can use up to 13 days, 104 hours of sick leave to care for family member, aging parents, something like that. That does count towards the 12-week FMLA entitlement documentation. And health provider certification might be required for you to be able to access that. You also have the ability, and this is always a tough situation, but we've navigated it with our clients before, where you do have the ability to use annual leave, to use leave without pay. One thing a lot of folks don't know about is there's the voluntary leave transfer program. This is really cool. This is where we get to see Feds helping Feds, and it just warms my heart anytime I see it in action. It allows employees to donate their leave to colleagues for their caregiving needs. So talk to your HR team about that. There are resources out there. Most of the federal agencies offer employee assistance programs to provide counseling, caregiving advice, and referrals to support groups, elder care specialists, and stress management resources, because you need to take care of yourself in this. You're going to be carrying a lot. Federal long-term care insurance partners, if you have it, can help for the caregiving expenses. And there's flexibility in there for both home care, assisted living, and everything else. And make sure that you don't minimize your options and forget about community and state resources. Local elder care agencies and nonprofit services can offer things like respite care, meal assistance, transportation, and you can use an elder care locator to find state-specific support. I have cared for elderly parents, so I get this, and these things are out there, and they're there for that purpose. But not knowing about them is the same as not having them. So what you don't know can't help you. So this is the time to just become familiar. On the financial planning side, build in a budget for it. Don't let this fresh face fool you. I'm 68 years old. So Miss Mary and I are building it into the budget for things for helping us. Now, here's where I get to be a little bit nerdy, because Peter Diamandis said there will be 80 billion with a B domestic use robots in service in the country by 2035. So I'm gonna have my robot walking around with me and making sure I don't fall. So getting back to serious, plan for expenses like medical bills and home care, and make sure that your thrift savings plan contributions remain intact to and on track to get to your financial goals. Another thing, federal caregivers may qualify for tax credits for doing this, you need to look into that. And above all, have an open communication with your family, because there may be an opportunity to shift and share some of those financial responsibilities. Utilize the federal benefits, the resources, the financial strategies, and create that balanced plan for you, because the one thing that I can say from my experience, it's tough, but it's going to be some of the most meaningful moments that you'll have in your life, to be able to do that. And we want to make sure that you have the ability to do so. So that's what I got, Katelyn.
Excellent. Wonderful. Yeah. It's tough. There's lots of ups and downs and all arounds. I have also been a caregiver in my lifetime, and I totally agree with that sentiment, Dan. There are really rough times and rough days and rough weeks, but to be able to do that work is very important and fulfilling. Yeah. So
what's that guy from our team call that? Touchy-feely?
Yeah, touchy-feely stuff. Yeah.
We all get it. We'll move on.
Well, that is all the time that we have for today, folks. We're going to be back next week, to bring you all of the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
And be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Hit the subscribe button. Katelyn, what are the stats? We got people watching. They're not subscribing.
Yeah, 82% of folks who are watching our videos on YouTube are not subscribed. So please subscribe. Take a second. The button's down there somewhere, down on the bottom left. Subscribe to this podcast on our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode. If you are on Spotify, please subscribe there as well. You'll get instant updates, and that will keep you kind of on the ball, knowing what you need to know as a Fed to navigate your benefits.
Let's set a goal, folks. Let's cut that to 81%. Now.
Let's do it.
Let's lower that 1%.
And I also want to make a mention. Please do share with your friends and colleagues. Okay, this is we're dealing with a whole change of administration. There's a lot of stuff going on, and anytime there is a change in administration, it's a time to gather information to know what you need to know. So please, 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 if you're having conversations with folks and they are concerned or they're wanting information or they have questions and they don't have a knowledgeable, vetted source to ask, please feel free to send them this podcast. Feel free to let them know about Serving Those Who Serve. We'd be happy to get them good, vetted answers.
Indeed. And Katelyn, what about the blog?
Yeah, we do. Speaking of good vetted answers, right? We've got our blog at blog.stwserve.com. We have great content there, folks. We are putting out at least 2 articles a week. And then we've got Ed Zerndorfer, who is a bit of a legend, the Bigfoot of Feds. He's writing for us in the Fed Zone every single week. These articles, I cannot stress enough, many of these articles are being written, by CFPs, who are also chartered federal employee benefits consultants. This is not Dr. Google. Dr. Google is not an effective source for finding information on federal employee benefits. It is way too complicated for that. So check out our blog, subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving. That way the blog articles show up in your inbox every single week, and you always have the information that you need.
And don't forget those live webinars that we do every single month and practically every single week. It's hard to find a week that we're not doing it. Coming up for you, we've got, for this time of year, our incredibly popular Tax Planning for Federal Employees webinar. That'll be on February 12th from 11 till 2. Yours truly will be hosting that. So, come on, turn out, say hello. And then the very next day, the 13th, we will have our equally popular TSP planning webinar. Those market valuations getting pretty high, folks. You probably want to be talking about having some strategies here. So that's on the 13th from 1 till 4. And that is the incomparable Jennifer Meyer handling that one. So be sure to put that on your calendar. Sign up for one, sign up for all, share them with friends. They will thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fed.
Oh, and lest I forget, if you're looking for a more personalized approach.
Oh, true. Yes.
Hit us up at meetings or ask STWS at STWserve.com. And we're happy to carve out some time to talk with you on a one-on-one basis, help you any way we can.
That is true. It's always great to talk to folks on a one-to-one basis. The webinars are great, formats if you like a group setting, but if you are ready to put together a comprehensive plan and work directly with an advisor, we're happy to talk with you about that as well. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Fed15. I remain Katelyn Murray.
And I guarantee I am Dan Sight.
And we will see you next week, everybody. Take care.